Joining us now, he's got a big announcement from the beach, Republican, House of Delegates member, and now candidate for something big statewide, Glenn Davis. Delegate Davis, good to have you with us.
Good morning, John. Glad to be on, and happy early birthday.
Thank you, Glenn. So yesterday you sent a press release out announcing your candidacy for lieutenant governor. Can you share with our audience why you moved it up and what's the genesis here of your candidacy?
Sure. Well, John, we were really excited to announce it yesterday. I know you've been hinting and announcing it for a little while, and that almost got me in trouble with my wife because she's like, Glenn, I thought before we did this you'd talk to me. I'm like, honey, I am. John just already knows what he thinks you're going to say. But we were really excited yesterday. And, John, what it comes down to is really, jobs in the economy. The Commonwealth, our economic growth has been pretty much anemic. It was 0.4% in 2013. We had no economic growth in 2014. We're the 12th best state in the nation for business today. We used to be first, then second, then eighth. Now we're 12th and going in the wrong direction. And now we're 37th in the nation when it comes to competitive tax policies. We really have to change things around. If there's a reason we're losing jobs and seeing no business growth, that's the reason.
It's going to be about jobs, and I've been saying this for some time. The next couple of cycles, it's going to be about creating jobs, and it's not going to be about talk land. It's going to be about what a candidate's going to do to bring good-paying jobs back to Virginia, back to the nation, for that matter. Now, let me go over some of the candidates that we expect in this race, and this will most likely be decided at a Republican convention in 2017, and I happen to think that Glenn Davis has a real shot at this because he's from Hampton Roads, and the ticket is going to be looking for Southeast Virginia diversification, plus he is a businessman and an outsider in a lot of ways. So here are the candidates that are in. State Senator from Northern Virginia, Jill Vogel. State Senator from Fredericksburg, Bryce Reeves. Former candidate for House of Delegates, Danny Vargas. Former Supervisor of Goochland, Ken Peterson. Former candidate for U.S. Senate, Shaq Hill. Former candidate for Congress, Micah Edmonds, also from Northern Virginia. He's an African-American, ran against Don Beyer, I believe. And then current House of Delegates member, Glenn Davis. So, Glenn, we've got Vogel, Reeves, Vargas, Shaq, and Micah Edmonds, all from Northern Virginia, and we've got one candidate from Hampton Roads, you. How do you think that might play into the convention?
Well, I mean, obviously, John, that helps tremendously because if we want to take the top of the ticket, the competition for governor is going to be Ralph, who the present lieutenant governor, who is from Hampton Roads. So, I help make sure that we bring that Republican contingent out to the general if I'm on the ticket. But I don't want to win just because I'm in Hampton Roads and we want a diversified ticket. The reason why I think we've got a great shot and the reason why I'm running is my background. John, I'm an entrepreneur. I've started my first company, out of that one-bedroom apartment, and in 2007, it became one of the top 100 fastest-growing IT companies, according to Inc. magazine. I know what it takes to create jobs. I've signed the front of the paycheck as well as the back. I know the tax policies that burden businesses. I know what regulations do to small businesses, and I know, that entrepreneurs, when they start companies, it's a risk-reward scenario. And they're willing to take the risk as long as there's an equal amount of reward at the back end. And what's happened over time is the risk to the entrepreneur has gone up. The reward, because of government taxes and regulations, have gone down. And we've seen less entrepreneurs get out there and start those businesses and grow and create jobs. And I know some people look at it and say, well, Glenn, the small startup companies, we really need the big companies. Well, where do you think the big companies come from?
The small ones.
It's like all of us, we just didn't show up one day on this planet. We were born. Those big companies in many cases came from a person's garage or, that stay-at-home mom that had this brilliant idea that was supposed to be a part-time job that turned into, a multi-million-dollar enterprise. I mean, think Microsoft and those guys starting out in the garage. Think Spanx and that enterprise that was started out by, a woman. I mean, there's so much opportunity, but we have to bring the entrepreneurial spirit back, and we have to allow it to flourish and not choke it to death.
Well, look, I agree with you 100%, and there's nothing like having people in government who created jobs, took the risk, built something from nothing, and then been able to go through the entrepreneurial experience, risk their own capital, and then employ people. We have done it, our radio network. I mean, it started from scratch. I don't employ a handful of people, but they have jobs that we created. I mean, that's basically it. Until you have that perspective, you don't really understand how tough this is. I just want to read, if I may, Glenn, a paragraph of your announcement. May I?
Sure, please.
Okay. This is from Glenn Davis's press release yesterday, running for lieutenant governor. I'm excited by this candidate because I think he's going to elevate the dialogue to jobs. And I love this paragraph. It says, I'm running because too many Virginians are unemployed. Thank you. Somebody finally says it. This one line. I'm running because too many Virginians are unemployed. I mean, that's the bottom line. He says, are unemployed, underemployed, or stuck in part-time jobs, desperate for full-time work. See, this is a statement about a candidacy that has a purpose. He goes on to say it's time for a Virginia turnaround so we can start creating jobs and growing our economy once again. As a businessman, I know firsthand what it takes to start a business and expand an existing one. Virginia used to be the best state in the nation for business. However, we're sliding backwards. It's time to get Virginia moving again. As a job creator, I know firsthand what it takes to get the job done. So, again, he starts up. He says, I'm running because too many Virginians are unemployed, underemployed, or stuck in part-time jobs. Now, could you imagine out there a ticket, Pete Snyder, I'm just saying, Pete Snyder, entrepreneur, job creator, Glenn Davis, Attorney General, there's 3 solid candidates. But it's about jobs. And everybody else can say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, if people are unemployed or they're underemployed or they've got 5 part-time jobs trying to piece together an existence, that's all that matters to them, Glenn.
It is. John, everything starts with the most fundamental foundation, and that's gainful employment so you can provide for your family. Look, I've had employees during the down times and the tough times where, they're getting paychecks and I'm not getting them because, things were tough back in, 2004 and stuff. And you know what it does to people when they're wondering where that next, the next paycheck's going to come from or how they're going to pay their mortgage one given month. That at that point, they're not really, they don't have the head in the right place to continue to grow and better themselves and better their families. Once people know that they have constant, consistent, gainful employment, then all of a sudden everything elevates inside that family. And so that's where it all starts. And to do that, you have to bring business, you have to grow businesses to create those jobs, and that's what we're not doing here. And, John, we're not out of the gate saying, I'm going to run for lieutenant governor and I've got this 30,000-foot view. We're running. I know the measuring stick I'm putting on myself, and that's we're going back to number 1 for business in the nation. We're going to be number 1 in job growth. That's my measuring stick. If I'm honored enough to be elected, and I already know some of the policies that we need to do to get things there. It's not I read a book. I've been a serial entrepreneur since the age of 26. I know what it takes. I know what entrepreneurs go through. We all go through the same thing. And if you want to, bring that entrepreneurial spirit back to Virginia, put one in office.
You know what? I love your platform. I just have to say that. Now, look, reality is going to soon set in. You're up against some very tough competitors. This is most likely going to be decided at a nominating convention in May of 2017, unless that's the deal that was made by State Central is overturned. There's a chance of that. But you got to plan out a convention right now, and you're up against some heavy hitters here. Glenn, Gio Vogel, Senator, Northern Virginia, very popular. Bryce Reeves, before Vogel, I had him as the morning line favorite. He's got $700,000. He's been campaigning for this nonstop forever. He's very determined. You've got Shaq Hill that's run in a convention statewide. And you got a couple other candidates that I would put as underdogs, Danny Vargas, Ken Peterson, and Micah Edmonds. But, those 2 or 3 right there, they're going to be tough. So how does a Davis campaign, 2-term House of Delegates member, how are you going to beat some of the heavy hitters like Vogel and Reeves?
Well, I mean, John, throughout my life, I've always been doing things where I've either taken on tough challenges or been told I couldn't do something. That's kind of been the history of me. But there's a lot of diversity, obviously, here and a lot of choices. You've got, someone with an amazing public safety and service to the country background. You've got another attorney. You've got, a little bit of diversity. But I think our message resonates. In many times in politics, John, it's all about timing. If there was a huge national threat on the horizon and Homeland Security, really needed something in Virginia, we've got someone on the ticket for that. But I would argue right now in the Commonwealth of Virginia with 0% economic growth, we need someone that can create jobs. And there's one person on this ticket right now that can do that. And I've done it. I've done it since the age of 26. I've been that serial entrepreneur. And like I said, you don't want me to go run a restaurant. I've never done it. But you also don't want someone to come and try to build an economy that's never, created jobs before. I've been there. I've done that. And I think that's the message that's going to resonate. I'm not a politician. I'm an entrepreneur that happens to be in politics, which allows me to bring that skill set to politics to use to grow our economy in Virginia. And that's the message we're running on.
Look, this is going to be a very interesting race. As I said before, for governor, you're going to have a very competitive race there. You would probably think right now that Ed Gillespie is the front runner for that, but he's going to have stiff competition in Rob Whitman, Corey Stewart, and I believe Pete Snyder is going to run for governor. And as I've said for months, if Snyder gets in, he's going to be the dark horse. He's going to shake up that race. I think he can win. Cuccinelli, we don't know what he's going to do. He turned down this Supreme Court justice the other day. If Cuccinelli gets in, and I think he will, he also is going to be tough to beat. So I don't know who the gubernatorial nominee is going to be. It's going to be very competitive. But here's what we know, Glenn. With 4 or 5 people running for governor and 6 or 7 or 8 running for lieutenant governor and 3 running for attorney general, there's going to be 15 to 20,000 people at that Republican convention in either Charlottesville or Richmond in May. That's a big number. And there's one thing that Gary Byler taught me when I first got to Virginia. I asked him what about these Virginia conventions, and he said, John, here's what happens. Whatever you predict or think, the minute they hit the gavel, all hell breaks loose. So that's, I'll never forget, he said that I was in Virginia like 3 days, and that's what he said to me on the phone, and he's right. So, look, Glenn, you never know what's going to happen, and I think you got a shot.
Well, thank you, John. I'm excited to be in the race. I'm excited to bring, the discussion to the voters across the Commonwealth. I'm excited to get on the road and start traveling the Commonwealth and meet a lot of people I haven't seen in a couple of years. And I'm excited. So, I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to many more.
Look, we're excited to have you in the race because we know that your presence is going to make everybody else talk about jobs in Virginia, and that's our number one issue here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. I want to thank Glenn Davis for being with us, announcing his candidacy on our show for lieutenant governor. You want more info? It's real easy. GlennRDavis.com. Glenn, 2 N's, rdavis.com.